Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Behind the Dish. We have a super cool episode. I say that all the time because every episode is super cool, but we have the founder of Behind the Dish with us today. So before we get into introducing John and kind of his story and what we're going to talk about today, I want you all to know that we had an incredible response to the last episode regarding body image issue and nutrition, and Nancy sharing her story about the challenges that she had with her eating disorder in college. So thank you so much for the feedback and the emails and the questions on that. We hear you, and we hear that you want more information. And so we are working to put together more information as far as nutrition coaching, mental performance, mental skills to help with any athletes or parents and coaches who may be going through that. And in general, right? I talked with a lot of my athletes on Sunday, and they said, we want more. So in my academy, we're going to do a hard focus through January and as far as we need to go on teaching them about what do you need to fuel your body as a female athlete. So stay tuned for that. We hear you. We're going to build on that, and we're going to get you some more information. Now, for today's conversation, we want to give you a little bit of a background on where this started. Where did we come from? Okay, so we do have the man, the myth, and the legend, Mr. John Buck, with us today. So John founded Behind the Dish. I mean, I don't know, John, if you were bored during 2020 and the pandemic and we're like, hey, let's start a podcast. But John, just to give you a little background about John, John was 16 years in Major League Baseball?
Somewhere around there. 11 in the big leagues, and then there's some minor league years in there.
Some minor league stuff. So, yeah, John is a Major League 17, Baseball. Yeah, he's a Major League Baseball catcher, played in the bigs for a long time. All-star status?
Yeah, 1 year.
Yeah, bad. You know what? Trying to keep it clean. Played with the Royals, played with the Blue Jays, the Marlins, the Mets, the Pirates, the Mariners, and the Angels. John, following his playing career, he's an entrepreneur. Passionate about teaching mental skills and mental performance within baseball, and now opening doors to softball, which is why we are sitting here today.
We're sitting here.
But he's an all-around, we always say that we coach because sports is a platform to teach the intangibles in life and to build these kids up and set them up for success in life. And that is who John is, right? And so that's how Behind the Dish started. That's why he's here. And so what we're going to do today is let you hear from the guy behind this entire project who, brought us in to say, let's do softball. We need softball. We need to start reaching these girls. And we're going to have a little conversation about the differences in baseball and softball. We're going to rip the Band-Aid off. Like, dare we go there?
Yeah. We dare.
My social media keyboard warriors is there at the yes and no's. So, John, You're a rock star. We're grateful to be here. We're grateful to have you with us today. So welcome to Behind the Dish Softball, bud. Welcome to the dark side, huh?
Well, I don't know. It seems like I said to you before we started, it feels like the educated side.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, it feels like the educated side.
Oh, yeah.
As we're talking, we started. Oh, did I write it down? John said, because girls are smarter than guys. Oh, okay.
That's our title.
I did date a catcher in high school. It is the woman I married. So we do have this debate who can call a better game still to this day.
I love that.
And I'm like, honey, this whole major league credentials thing, I kind of did it. She was, I could still call a better game than you.
I still know how to call a game better than you.
Right.
That's going to be awesome. All right. So John, let's open this, right? Let's open this can of worms. We talk about baseball, softball. One of the biggest conversations that I see is hitting, right? Is there a difference in the swing? But before we get into that, what are your thoughts on the differences between the two sports? What do you see?
I feel softball's a lot quicker. Your reaction times are quicker. It's played quicker. There's also, which baseball has, I mean, you're playing 162 games, 180 days, but softball seems to dial that up quicker.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're throwing underhand. I mean, like I said, went and watched my wife, in high school. I remember it was on tournaments, it was 9 games in a day. I mean, it's crazy, but I thought, oh, they're going to get hurt. But I think where there isn't professional afterwards, it seems like the girls are just like, we're going all tilt for this amount of time that we have. So I think it makes her develop it a little bit more, but it makes it changes the aspect of the game. I think it keeps it fast. It keeps that slap hitting, that quick feet, quick hands of a softball player. I think that really keeps that in the game, keeps it relevant. Now, I think what you're seeing bleed over of baseball, because girls are bigger, faster, stronger now, because we're getting a lot more educated on what creates a good swing, because biokinetically we can break it down. The right swing is the right way. That biokinetically, if our shortest path to the ball, short to it, long through it, that's science. I don't care. Science doesn't care whether that ball is big and yellow or it's white.
I'm so trying to like breathe, because I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
And I can get so passionate. So
but that's also too, sorry, not to interrupt you, but that's also the small ball game. There's technical parts to it that's correct because of softball.
Well,
baseball, we do it wrong.
There are going to be subtle differences, right, between the game, because we look at the reaction time, the difference in reaction time versus baseball to softball. We look at the different planes and spins that are put on each pitch, right? There have to be foundational mechanics that have to happen. But then, and so one of the biggest debates that I run into as a hitting coach when I work with my hitters, and I'm curious to hear your feedback on this, is through my career and what I know about hitting a 70-mile-an-hour rise ball that's coming in at my hands, I've got to stay down through the ball with my barrel. I've got to keep my hands inside, attack the inside seam, keep my barrel down through it, almost as if I'm making a giant check mark. Because if I do that, now I'm going to cut that spin in half, and I'm going to redirect that side rise ball spin to backspin. And that's where my line drives and lifts come from, right? So to be able to do that, I teach my kids, you've got to set your feet, get your front foot down, and your hands have to get in the hitting zone before you explode your hips. And it's a subtle movement, right? Like I'm sitting here doing it, like our people listening can see me. But once they get the hands in the slot, now we can attack the inside seam and keep your barrel through the ball. Now, the biggest thing that I get pushback from other coaches is, no, your hips have to go before your hands, or you have no power. And I'm sitting here going, cool, well, my hitters are short hopping a 300-foot fence, so clearly we're okay. Yeah. But if I go hips before my hands, then my hands get pushed out of the zone. They come out and down, and now I've got a longer swing. I'm not short to it, right? Now I'm coming out and around in kind of more of a U fashion. Yep. And so from my experience and what I teach my hitters and what I see, and what I was taught in college, right? That's what I see. But I will also, like, I watched Nolan Arenado when he's with the Rockies, and there was one year he was in a huge slump, and his front foot, man, it was just lingering in the air. And I told my husband, I was like, dude, get your front foot down, man. Get it down, and you're going to be fine. So for me, the similarities in hitting is you've got to set your feet. It starts with your feet. There are base mechanics, right? So what do you think about that, John?
Well, every starting force from the ground, balance out it always comes from the ground. That's where your feet are stable in the ground. It's where you make contact, how you generate power. And so, yes, foot has to be down. And when that hits, obviously there's, where it is scientifically, we can measure it out, baseball, softball, but no matter what, that ball, that ground, because also I did long drive. Right? Here's the ball standing right there. In order to, the way I create a torque with my swing, my feet, it's the same way to transfer an energy as whether I'm swinging a golf ball or a bat.
Yeah.
Now, whether I'm swinging a softball bat, your body, like I said, it's science. It creates torque the way it's going to create torque. Sure. Now, you can't do that if your foot's in the air. Right. Or if it's late or it's mistimed. Right. So that timing of getting it down, like what you said, make sure that foot down. And I feel like Joey Bats, right? Getting his foot down, he would hang it in the air. But when he's getting it down, that leg kicks, when they're getting it down, there's still that little time for him where he's seeing the ball. And that's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Or no, where Dinart, whatever his last name,
Arenado.
whatever his name is. Right? When
Nolan, we love you, bud.
Yeah.
I don't know. He made it so I had a few. He was a young rookie and made me have a few bad nights. So screw that guy, whatever. So with his foot's hanging in the air, for instance, here's what I'm talking about. When his foot's hanging in the air, and what he does is his left hip kind of drifts out, and I know what you're talking about because I threw the pitches down and away, cut. When I would see that hanging and going away, he can't make that. He's late. So if he has that and it down, and I do go cutter away, that energy isn't falling away. It's sticking to his approach because he's down. He can hit
a line drive through the right center when he does that.
He's not reacting to the ball. He's hitting off on an approach.
Yes.
He's not subject to where the ball is. And when you're late like that, even if you're that other guy's name, you're going to be late on balls. You'll miss hit balls. You'll try to be
exactly. So when I was a graduate assistant at Tennessee, and this sounds really rudimentary, and this is what I would do with all of my hitters, right? Before every practice and game, they get all the hitters in the outfield in a giant circle, and they would count 1, 2, 3, and that was rhythm. So 1 is lift the hands, 2 was load plant, 3 was swing. And so what I see a lot of times with my hitters is they'll go 2, 3. 2, 3, right? And the 2, 3 is the 2 is your foot better be down with your weight loaded in that back hip. And then 3 is explode the hands and launch the hips, right? But feeling that rhythm of 2, 3. So we talk timing issues, and that's where, and so when we talk about, similarities in the game, from my perspective, that's a constant. That has to happen.
Yeah. And I think what is when we're talking to the feet, and that's how you create torque and power. And biokinetics have now starting to say, whether you're softball or baseball, this is how you create torque with your body. Like I said, I was doing the long drive after I retired. That's how they did it, right? And so that's how you're biokinetically from the ground up. Now, when we start to go, and you said knob down through the ball.
Well, not knob. I teach elbow to that inside seam, but so whichever way you want to go, elbow. I don't like knob for my hitters because they start to get wrist like flicky, right? So I'll teach that elbow to the ball. And what that does, it's that subtle movement to where my hands will clear my back shoulder. And now I can explode. But if I just keep my hands stagnant behind my back shoulder and I bail my hips, now I'm barring out that front hand and it makes me long.
Yeah. And I think we're talking about mental stuff. To get those simple things is when we're get mechanical, you've named off 3 or 4 things that happen, right? Yeah. Or this 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then people start to get mechanical. Why we're doing those mechanical things, it's always good to train within your approach.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So if you're doing those mechanical things and you're not doing it off your approach, your timing off of what you're swinging is going to be different.
So talk to us on Shelby and Dr. Like, I want to play here too. But let's kind of go into that approach.
So what's I know in baseball, so I've called the pitches. I've called the pitches for Greinke and Harvey. I try to go inside. They can't double up and triple up there. They won't do it. Because if you double up and triple up in there with big league hitters, they're going to get you.
And what you mean by double up and triple up is 2 in a row, 3 in a row.
During the same pitch.
Same form, same pitch.
So we're 85% of the pitches are thrown where? And also in softball, where are they thrown? Where's the pitches thrown?
Well, for me,
so
I'm
basketball.
Are we going off of what I would throw?
Well,
basketball, yeah. So where are you comfortable? Where are you comfortable, young lady?
Where am I comfortable throwing?
Yes, yeah.
Inside all day.
Inside all day? Okay.
I can attest to that.
And so you'll set a pattern there.
Yeah.
Right? So my approach, being ahead of, I need to have my approach off of where the high percentage of where they're going to go.
Yeah.
Right? For me, for baseball, fastball, middle away, right center. You hear Albert Pujols, you hear Trout, you hear Mookie Betts, you hear, who else do we need to talk to? They trying to hit up inside the baseball.
Yeah.
They're trying to get, or Pujols, or Trout's where I'm trying to inside out every pitch. Right? And that's because how people try to pitch him, he's going off of his approach. So everything inside out, he can dominate. And the majority of the pitches are thrown middle away.
Yeah.
And he's going to hunt middle away. he's going to own middle away. So his approach, his 1, 2, 3, his timing, everything off of that has to be off of, it has to be off of what they're going to pitch you. 85% of the pitches are being thrown middle away. Now you're opposite. And that's probably why you're an outlier, maybe, right?
Yeah.
You throw in, but that's not normal. Girls or anybody, any pitcher feels more comfortable down fastball, middle away.
Yeah.
So let's go with that. How many times do you throw a fastball in college?
Oh, no.
You really don't.
No, but I wouldn't say so. There's, been a little bit of controversy over this. I feel actually on social media quite a bit.
Oh, social media.
We gotta love it, right? Of do you keep a fastball or do you go to other pitches, right? So in softball, a fastball is it doesn't move. So it's a straight pitch and doesn't move. So I've always turned it into a drop ball after my girls have learned how to throw it. Because you want movement. You want movement on the ball.
Anyone can catch up to a fastball.
Yeah, and I can attest to
and
that.
Especially with these bats as hot as they are, all you have to do is get that bat out front of the ball, and that takes the velocity you're supplying and the heat of these bats is high.
And I would say the only time that I would say throw a fastball is if you cannot hit a spot with your pitch at that time. That would be the only time that I would feel that's acceptable. But I always say you throw your moving pitches, you throw your off-speed pitches. Movement at the end of the day is going to be harder to hit. So that's my take
that's
on that
we talked about one of our upcoming podcasts is going to be on pitching specific spin versus velocity, right?
Yeah.
And so if I'm calling a game, I'm going to my pitcher strengths, right? And I'm seeing where the hitter. I always teach my catchers, when you get in the box, you've got to see where their feet stand up. What do their feet look like? Because that's going to tell you a lot about their swing and what you want to throw. Right? So from then there, I'm depending on that hitter, I'm working up and in or down and out. And then I'm going to work, the horizontal movement pitches of our curve screwball off speed kind of scenario. But so then if you throw a slapper in there, right? What am I as a catcher doing? I'm coming in at your hands hot
all day,
because I know you're looking down and out. And so I'm going to prove it.
Well, and kind of going back to your base of when you're hitting, right, with your feet. That's something that a pitcher looks at all the time, right? If you're diving in with that front foot, I'm coming in on your friggin' hands all day, right?
Absolutely, because you're going to pop it up. You can't get your hands through.
Yeah.
And that, ties back to where I see so many coaches going, your reps have to go first. And I'm going to say, okay, well, you are never going to hit Montana Faust rise ball. No. Number one. You're not even going to hit somebody throwing hard and flat that's coming inside. You can't get your hands through because your foot lingers, your weight comes forward, and now we're drifting, right? So,
well, and coming to slappers in softball, right? Watching their feet is huge. Huge. If they're tailing off to first base, of course I'm going to go outside all day. But they are trained to go oppo
5-6 hole all day. We teach them 5-6 hole.
If they're a trained slapper, you're coming inside on them all day long.
All day.
Yeah.
So going back to Allie's like,
sorry, I'm just getting going here.
Just give me like a 12-hour episode, friends.
So what I was reiterating was your timing. Right. Yeah. Which we start with your feet. You just described how you'd pitch. I said how I would describe how I'd pitch. You had a couple scenarios. You set patterns. All of them, you set patterns. You set patterns off of lefty slap hitters. You set patterns off a type of pull hitter. You named off a couple. You have patterns to be able to do it. So if I'm going to set my approach, my timing, I'm going to do that off of her patterns. Like you said, I don't care, fastball, cutter, slider. She has a pattern. That is the fastball. That is the fastball. And if your bat lag is covering, and it's science again, if you're going to right center with the approach, say that's your approach, because that right there has more coverage for more rooms for mistakes, because my bat lag through the zone, it'll help it. So the cutters, sliders, sinkers, curveballs, more room for error, which higher contact. Tony Gwynn, because his bat path would stay through. He's kind of like a slap hitter because he has those long bat and he could hold it for a long time. And he would still stay inside the ball, even with the contact out in front. And the reason he said that helped his bat lag create longness through the zone to help make contact, put the ball in play, decrease on strikeouts. And from the softball world, that ball's moving all over the place. And what helps you have more contact on moving pitches is when that barrel is able to lag through the bat.
Correct.
And I think go ahead.
was going to say, so let's give our listeners just, kind of some tips on that approach piece, right? As a hitter, when did you start your mental preparation for an at-bat?
Right after my last at bat. So that night I would go home. I just got done playing in Detroit. I go back to my hotel. I have Justin Verlander on the mound the next day. I'd lay down and I have 4 at bats. The 4 at bats I just had, one of them I had a slider down and away. And now I'm going to, that I swung at and missed.
So here's what our listeners can't see. I'm going to pop.
I know. Okay.
Don't lose it.
Okay.
Is John literally just closed his eyes and visualized those at bats with Verlander on the mound?
Yep.
Keep going, John.
So I'm closing my eyes again. You made me open them. So since you brought that up, I'll tell everybody what I'm doing. That, like I said, I'm in Detroit, so I'm laying in bed. I know I can see the Tiger off to right field. I can see Alpine's the statue there. I can see the scoreboard in left. I see those numbers out and right, how the Finch jets out to right, where I took Verlander deep to right center. I got the Tiger, the foul pole that has the Tiger print. I'm bringing these things into my mind because your brain, your sensories are going to pick that stuff up. Yep. That's going to help you attract the zone when you're in that moment. So I'm laying there in bed. I have an at bat that I'm going to replace that something went bad. Slider down in the dirt that somebody made me swing at. All right. Now I'm going to see myself in bed.
They made you swing at it, right?
Yeah.
They made you like they made you.
You have to swing it
and just pushed you. Yeah.
Right. That's right. So I take it now. I replay what I want, taking it and then driving to right field, replacing whatever bad things that I want to forget about the night before. And then I put Verlander on the mound and I run through 4 at bats. Now I'm putting that timing right then. When I was telling you, I know Verlander, I bring him out because I know he throws more fastballs middle of the way. He likes to tack in. And after he tacks in, he throws that curveball that always buckled me. Yeah. So one, because that's the one I reviewed back, or if maybe in my notes, I can recall it because I do the visualization every night. It's part of my habits. And now I know it's going to come. So I put that in there so that even in my bedtime, I'm hitting that, and I'm hitting it right off his face. He may buckle me, and I may have things that can refocus me back into my at bat. Is when I get buckled, I'm like, all right, I'm going to hit this off your face, and then your hot girlfriend's not going to like you. Right? Sorry. So that's funny. So see, exactly. So this is a real thing that happened.
That was amazing. And I'm going to ask Allie a question.
Yeah.
Because now we talk about differences baseball, softball. Let's talk about female athletes, male athletes. You visualize, and I'm wired this way too, right? Hitting a ball off his face. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to off his face. So I tell hitters back up the middle. Like, and when I teach top hand power, I say, imagine you're punching the pitcher in the stomach, right? Because it gives them that visual. Now, because I've had my girls been like, well, I don't want to hurt them. Mm-hmm. What do you hear when you do your mental coaching, Allie? I mean, that's very much like the guys are like, I'm going to get this off your face, right?
Maybe you would say the same thing.
Well, I would, but I know that some of my athletes will be like, oh my gosh, what?
Well, then that's not the analogy you use for that athlete. If that's a reaction, like, okay, well then what is it that's going to make you drive you to hit it that hard, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, I want to, whatever it is, then that you find and you use their words back so that when they're doing their visualizations that every night, like John, because that's what I teach too, John, and that's what John and I teach, is you revisit the game for 5 minutes, find the errors that you made and where you need, and then that's what you visualize that night, so that when you do your transition and you're in your affirmation state and you're walking up to the plate, you already know what you've got it, right? But that work doesn't start as you're walking to the plate. You've already done that work. And so whatever that driver is what you use. Everybody's different.
Yeah. And it's also too, so since you kind of turned it into hit off his face, I'm actually what I'm actually trying to do is I got you to laugh.
Right. Yeah.
So I am trying to kind of defibrillate my brain because I'm pissed that he just buckled me.
Yeah.
Right. I'm in front of 40,000 people. I knew he was going to do it. Yeah. So I have this structure already, like, and it's a made up almost scenario. Like, I'm going to hit off his face. Now his hot model girlfriend's that's sitting on like, I
And
can
that's
feel
what
that. And it refocused me because I had some enjoyment there. I laughed at myself for a second. All right, I got this because I know what's coming next.
Yeah.
Because I just visualized a fastball down and away, which I kind of alluded to already, my visualization, a drive and away. And then it's so weird when it happens and you're there intuitively, you'll start to be like, oh, I've been here. You will attract the zone or flow state, spirit, whatever you want to call it. Things slow down. You become familiar with that. And then you've had home runs before when you've done it.
Stay in front of it. You stay in front of that voice in your head, like, oh, he just did that to me. Damn, I'm going to lose. I'm not going to. And instead, you refocus. And whatever that driver is what you already have practiced doing, so you can bring that enjoyment. I'm going to get you, and bring that enjoyment back.
See, and I had that pre-planned thing of what I'm going to say some things because I'm doing it to almost make myself laugh again. That's not very serious. That bring up his girlfriend who's sitting but it brings me something back to the middle, back to the moment to where
it grounded him back. And everybody has their different motivator into doing it.
But with one key point that I want to highlight is you replayed what you wanted to happen. You saw yourself succeeding. So another thing I want you to touch on, and then Shelby, I want to ask you your kind of preparation for on the mound, right? But so you touched on something, John, that, he just buckled me. I'm pissed, right? I'm a hothead. I had no idea in college how to curb and manage that frustration. And so what would I do? I would choke my bat like I was going to break it in half, and I would go harder, like, right? That was not the right approach. So John and Allie, for our hitters who, whether it's BP in practice or they go 0 for 3, what are some tools or some things they can do to curb that frustration, manage it, and pull themselves back into that relaxed state, like you just said, make yourself laugh?
Yeah, here's a pre-game routine I'll do. I do right-handed swings, 5 quadrants at each swing. Okay. I do 5 with the heavy bat, 5 with the medium bat, 5 with the light bat. So I go heavy right. But here's the brain to recheck where you're at. Here's a pregame thing. 1, you practice self-discipline. You flip over the other side. That's not your normal side, right? All you have is your brain. So, I have a pregame routine for that. So I do right-handed swings, 5 quadrant, up and in, up and away, down and in, down and away, down the middle, and I hit off my approach. Then I flip around to the other side. That self-critical person shows up in a hurry. Just going to the other side. Oh, I feel silly. I don't feel as good. This feels.
So do you swing the bat from the left side then?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow, I don't know if I would. That'd be yeah.
You know why you should do that? Why do you think the Japanese throw? Your body, right, equal to every opposite.
Yep.
It's been proven the quicker you can swing on the other side because you weed out insufficiency in your body and weaknesses, right? It weeds that out. Not only does it weed out physically, right? You become ambidextrous and more athletic and coordinated. It's a mental drill anyways.
Yeah.
You're only loosening. You're telling me it's not healthy to swing from the other side?
I mean, I try to.
No, I think it's healthy. I'm just envisioning like that little self-criticism. I'm like, oh, that'd be ugly.
You started it right there. I don't know if I could do it. That is the exercise I'm talking about, young lady.
Absolutely.
So that you said, what are some things that you can do? I'll tell you what, not say I can't do that.
Absolutely.
The first thing it says, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get more confident.
It would be interesting. But now here's a thing that I'm curious to ask you, and Dr. Ashlie is being amazing as welcome to mom life. My little one is home and she's hollering for snacks, and Dr. Allie's going to get
being second mom.
So thank you for that.
I ran some cookies to her.
Yeah, she's just taking her whole tub of cookies.
Okay, she'll be sugared out. It's all good.
And that was that nutrition thing we were talking about.
It was. Yeah, it's okay.
That's called incentives. That's called incentives.
And she's good again for the next 5 minutes until she wants 4 more cookies. But, and tell me, I'm curious your perspective on that, right? If I tell one of my hitters to turn around from the left side, female athletes, we're automatically wired to be perfectionists, right? So they're gonna feel this failure, like, why I'm terrible, and that's the self-talk that's gonna start to spiral in.
We're in a game of failure, taught by negative people wanting positive results.
Ooh. Oh, that's poetic.
And all we're doing is think about how a lot of coaches, they criticize, they don't coach.
Mm-hmm.
They criticize the action, not reiterate what they want you to do.
Yeah. How do we fix
That
it?
makes sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're too busy criticizing. So then it's called spilling the milk syndrome, right? Don't swing at that high pitch. What just flashed through all our minds? A high pitch,
High pitch.
right. So if we start to say I'm controlling, I'm keyholing this ball down and away. I didn't say don't swing at a high pitch.
Mhm.
If I'm yelling down to my girls, hey, keyhole her, get your pitch.
Yeah.
After
We'll
she
see the
swings
ball
that high
down
pitch.
in the zone.
That's that same exercise. You're learning to train that right after failure. That's secret sauce, ladies.
Yeah.
If you
And it's hard for athletes to get there.
because you just said it.
Just
You're a
swing it.
perfectionist. Yeah, you have emotional. Why do you think I got to say, hey, Verlander's girlfriend, watch me hit this off your boyfriend's face at the time? Why? Because it's hard. I have to defibrillate. I have to do something.
It's what you need at that time.
Right.
I had to make something. I had to put something silly out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To defibrillate me because I knew that curveball was coming, and trust me, my skin's crawling.
And that's where that visualization, like when John closed his eyes, but the key was him closing his eyes was natural because he's been practicing it, but he also said he does it every night.
Mhm.
Well, along with those practices every night come that verbalization,
Mhm.
the affirmations, right? Telling yourself and then having that backup. So when that affirmation is potentially not working when you're at the plate, how do I pull myself and stay in front of my voice in my head,
Mhm.
right? And that's what is key because otherwise you tank it.
Well,
And that's why that left-handed drill is good, is because right away you see we go to that. We're humans, we're problem solvers.
Yeah.
And then I don't care how you look. It's going to increase your bat speed on the other side.
Absolutely.
And then
and
you're
you
gonna
can see it better. You
Yeah.
can see the ball better when you get back.
And who cares about what you look at? You're doing T work for all your self-criticism and also hitting. Teach yourself how to swing left-handed. You're going over the fundamentals, what you're really going to do on the other side. And all I know, the more I coach, the better I become as a player.
All my kids
It's actually funny.
that are listening, you're all going to hit from the opposite side of the plate.
Well-
First week, just so you know.
Well, it's
Just
funny
just
that
do
you
a
said-
pregame with it. Pregame.
Yeah. Well, I've been actually trying to practice pitching lefty
Mhm.
to teach myself kind of a little differently. Like I know how to pitch right-handed, but I go to this left side and I'm like, okay, wait a second. This girl may be feeling this part that I'm feeling here and this part. And well, no wonder they can't feel their fingers because they're having to train
Mhm.
their hand, right? It totally makes sense. And I've
But also-
been trying to do that too.
And also think as you as an athlete. So as you're trying to educate yourself and learn, you're not only you're learning about how your body's moving through space.
Mhm.
Just by you bringing that up, you're learning about your body.
Yeah.
You've now become a better pitcher.
Well,
And you're not going
and
to
the
pitch in the
mental
game
side.
with it, but your
And
body also becomes more balanced. That's really why I'm asked each year, I was like, dude, why? Like, you're a better hitter than me right-handed. Why don't you switch hit? It's just keep my body balanced. The best hitter in the game. That was my one little thing that I asked him at the All-Star game. Like, why don't you do that? It's just to keep my body balanced.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
That's
he does
awesome.
it every single day.
Wow.
Well, within that balance comes that cognizantness of also of your body. So
Well-
now your mind is telling that body what to do instead of letting that old habit or the wrong habit or the hitting it so you don't buckle, right?
Mhm.
You've now trained your brain to take control over the
Mhm.
body and not the other way around.
Well, and I've done some, research on this, and I tell my kids all the time, on average, it takes 66 days for a newly learned skill to become a habit, right? That's 2 months of constant repetition every day. And that's not just physical reps and movements. That's mental as
There's-
well.
We had, here's me talking about visualizing. I mean, and we don't use that S word. Do you know what S word I'm talking about? It's not in our slump. I'll only say it once.
Oh, okay. I was like, where are we going
It's
with
a
this
big. She's like all these. So we don't use that word. I may be in something that would resemblance that. Batting one something. Who knows? And I had my mental, like we just said, I was out of whack. I was told by my mental coach to put some music on, walk down up and down Chicago. I remember it was Chicago Avenue. And I remember walking up, I can see it now. Nike factory there, just walking down. And I had to sit, I hit solid. I hunt fastballs, I hit solid. It stripped away everything. Everything all that data that was going in my brain, all I needed is the essence. And it was funny. When I inundated myself, I hit solid. It was like when I went to the yard, I was like, yeah, come on, Mark Burley. Come on. It wasn't the Mount chose my fastball, but I went to hunting, looking and going to the yard, knowing what I was going to do. And I felt it.
Yeah.
Because I've been reiterating to myself all day long, I hit solid. That's who I am. I suffocated anything else in my mind and obsessively I hit solid.
That's because your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and a non-reality. So if you're telling your brain, you're visualizing and you're telling it and you start to feel it, you've replaced the emotion with the emotion of success. That's why it's so important.
Whatever you tell yourself, you're going to believe, whether it's I suck or I'm a great hitter.
You are.
The funny thing was when I did that, I had this, I hit solid. That's all I was saying to myself. But this mental imagery as I was walking, I could see your eyes going up and to the right. You're thinking about hitting stuff already. Thinking solid. You could see that, feel that in your body, in your mind's eye. You know what that is. It was like my body was taken over. I had these images of solid hits that I've had recently and in the past. So I started to believe, I hit solid by just saying it over and over. I hit solid.
Well, there's so many, and hitting specifically, right? But I'll always tell my athletes, you need to tell your body what you want it to do on this next rep. But when I go into hitting, so it's really a fine line when you teach hitting. You can give too much instruction, and now they have a long to-do list going through their minds. But teaching them to feel, I need you to feel your feet. And that's really been one thing I've been hanging on to is feel your feet. And by feeling your feet in the ground, you're going to feel the rhythm of your load. And now we attack the ball. He's laughing at me like, yeah.
No, I see you. You're bringing it all back around. I love it. I'm ready to blah already. Right.
I know. But we also do, when my athletes come in and every time I get a new athlete, this is always really icky because I'll tell them, I'll say, all right, before we start working out, what's your mental goal? What's going to be your focus mentally? What's your physical goal? What are we going to improve on today? And what is your I am statement? And basically it's fill in that blank. I am, right? And I always tell them the ones that feel awkward are the ones you need to say over and over and over. And you need to say it until you believe it.
Yeah. I love
so,
it.
On the mound, Shelby, walk us through that side, like your mental preparation on the mound.
So, I was actually thinking about this while we were continuing to talk. I feel like it was very different from like club ball for me going into college ball. In college ball, we have video, right? And we watch that all the time. And it's funny because I go back to club ball and I feel like I didn't think as much as I did as soon as I got to college and started watching a bunch of film. So going back into the college realm and watching all of that film, I had to figure out how to absorb all of that and understand to not freak out when I got on the mound and have a million different things running through my head.
And throw.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, so this girl hit the drop ball and then the changeup and then the right. I'm like, what? Okay, so how do we approach this, right? And then I had to go back to where was I confident in what I throw? Like I was a drop ball and rise ball pitcher when I went into college, and that's what I had to be confident in throwing. And that's where I kind of came back and I'm like, you know what? Visualizing was a huge thing for me. I had to learn that big time. And going back to what you're talking about, right, of practicing that daily, I just want to say to all the athletes listening right now, it's something you have to continue practicing. So many of my girls come in, well, I tried that and it didn't work. Okay, well, you need to keep trying it and keep working on that because it's so big.
And when I first started visualizing, I rarely saw myself succeeding.
You have to train your brain.
Very interesting. Yeah. That's and a lot of people who are self-critical and hard on themselves, right? Do visualize in self-deprecating ways, far as because we're problem solvers. We're preparing ourselves to deal with this failure. because that's the ultimate worst thing in the world. So we're going to protect ourselves, but we're robbing ourselves of where we can go. Because there's only one rule, and there are no rules. Who's the rules to say that any of that, right?
Yeah.
And two, to iterate what you were saying, notice how you said when I got back to throwing, I became me, and I really felt. You said what you said that you got to have. You said the recipe right there with your pitching. As soon as I got to me, what I knew that I felt that was me, I got back to me. That's you. And you felt.
And in my experience, I came in and I had 4 different pitching coaches throughout my career.
Mm-hmm.
So I never truly meshed with one and really understood their philosophies.
Mm-hmm.
I went in again as a rise ball, drop ball, change pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my bread and butter. I did awesome with that. And then I got changed to East West. And my freshman year was a very big wake up call for me.
Well, but you have, and a lot of athletes do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pure athleticism. And you were able to get by on that in high school.
You
get to college,
it's
and now
you
have to learn how to pitch. You guys, I had to learn how to throw all over again when I got to the University of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
My freshman year, we're warming up, right? And coach walks up to me and says, "Ashlie, you have side spin on your throw."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Yes, ma'am." I didn't know that was a thing. She took the ball out of my hand and gave me a spinner and said, "I need 12 to 6 spin.
Mm-hmm.
You'll throw with this until it's gone." And it took me 8 weeks. And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?"
Yep.
I'm a freshman at the University of Florida, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
having to learn how to throw properly.
Yep.
And
I had to relearn a rise ball too.
Yeah.
And they strip you of everything. And if you don't learn that spin, you ain't gonna throw it in a game.
Yep.
So it's
So if
I think you have to be every level you go to be able to take mental stress. And here's the other thing: take on the new information, filter it, and use it, and still know I got to perform.
Yeah.
And reducing those thoughts helps me be in the zone and perform and be consistent.
Yeah.
Right. But being able to handle this change and all the mental crazy parts that takes to be able to do that, and strength and self-discipline. And, it takes a lot. And then to be able to come over here to drop it all. Hey, there's a practice. And now let's go perform. There's a couple different types of mental attributes you got to have, And so when we're saying mental game, that's why it always feels all over the map.
Yeah.
Because one person is the same, right? How you dealt with stress is different than Allison and so on and so forth. We are different as people, right? So the mental game, you may not even need to hear any of this. You need to keep it a little more simple and visualize a little more positively. And
well, that's exactly right. I had to simplify a lot of it because I felt like I was overwhelming my brain to where I almost felt like I got the yips a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't even know how to work my body now. Like, right. Versus I had to make sure my pre-pitch talk was just something simple.
Breathe and
here comes my best drop ball down and out. Here it comes.
And some of the best mental game is it's so simple, it's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you need to be is you need to reduce your thoughts.
Yep.
We could go on for hours with this, and we will pick up with this conversation. And the cool part about the realness and the authenticity of our conversations is we start with a difference in baseball, softball, and then we go down a rabbit hole because we get so passionate. And I'm not surprised that we went to mental approaches and visualization, which is really, really cool. But to kind of wrap this one up a little bit, Dr. Ashlie and John, for our athletes who have never visualized before and don't know how to, what tips and tools would you give them to help start that practice?
Allison, you want to go first, then I'll go?
Yeah, so you go ahead and I'll finish it.
So which I don't know, which
okay, I'll go.
So, so let's say you have an athlete, right, that is like, I don't know how to visualize. I'm struggling. I'm in my head. How do I get out of my head, right? And you're trying to teach them how to see themselves succeeding.
I'm debating. Like I'm going in my head. I think almost they need to know where they're going. You have to have a well-defined goal.
Absolutely.
Well-defined goal.
Yeah.
I made that well-defined goal on that day that I walked around Chicago telling you I hit solid. That was well-defined. And it played out that way. I didn't add all this other stuff to it. that's as simplest form. That's the number one thing. Have a well-defined goal. Now, how you get that goal, I think you should take some time. Depending how much time, and this is where you should probably look in the mirror. How bad do I really want it? If it feels so beneath you and feels so silly to sit down for a half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour like I did, even while I was in the big leagues when I did this, and write down like, I'm going to hit 300, 30, and 100. And real Pacific, I'm going to do it by doing X, Y, and Z. Very Pacific. And if you don't think you're worth it, then you're really not that 300 hitter or whatever goal you want to get to after you find that well-defined thing. Because that gives you deliverables and objectives of where you're going, a real defined goal of where you're going. Yeah. I think that's why I was like, do I give her drills or some things? Yeah. But I think if you don't know exactly where you're going, you're going to fall short.
Where you want to go.
And it should scare the hell out of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It should make, I don't want to tell you. I didn't want to tell people when I was 12 years old that I was playing in the big leagues because people would laugh at me. Like, I don't want people to know, like my goals now as an entrepreneurial.
It was so obvious. He was hitting the ball into the parking lot, like 4 lanes down in Little League. Like, yeah. It was so obvious.
Well, but the other thing is I had uncles who played football who went to Nebraska, and they were the first school that had the psycho-cybernetics, the University of Nebraska, and he brought these tapes home to me. And I remember this, whether it was gymnastics, whether it was BMX racing, skiing, football, my uncle and Irving Fryer and all these people that I just thought, whoa, like, right, here's God's word. Because these are these Division I athletes going to be pro, and they're handing me these tapes, visualize it. And I did it a lot. I'm a little OCD, right? So, but I did it a lot.
How old were you?
I was 9 or 10.
9 and 10 years old.
Mm-hmm. And I had just an early age of, and I saw the benefits because I was doing gymnastics. I was doing all these athletic, I was very gifted, but I could tell I was different because the way I observed the game.
Yeah.
And it was because of this visualization stuff
Mm-hmm.
that my uncle that they were doing at University of Nebraska, the psycho-cybernetics when it was early science. Yeah. And so I was just lucky to be able to have those skills to help recall with pitches, to recall with hitters, and to be able to slow the game when it speeds up. My skills of, how I think now. But I think the number one thing is having a well-defined goal helps it all fall in place. It helps you understand where you're going.
Right. And I think that sometimes if you don't even know and you're trying to figure out that goal, when we say look back into the game and see where you want to improve, that's where you can start that goal. Because you can have a whole bunch of goals that you're not sure which one to start with. Mm-hmm. And so spending time and looking back in the game, and not necessarily just at your errors, but at where in your primary position, how you can be better, and get that confidence like Shelby was talking about. Mm-hmm. And then put some goals around that is a really great space to start if you've never done visualization. And then you start to take that position that and you start to perfect it and speak it. I'm the best left fielder. I catch every fly ball that comes out, right? Whatever it is, you start to visualize it, and you visualize the grass under your feet and the ball flying through the air, mm-hmm. and your glove going up and your hand coming in and coming back out. The whole entire process, all the way throwing it back home. Mm-hmm. In so that it is so natural and so instinctual that now when you visualize it and you're out in the field, your mind has replaced. That is what your mind sees to do when it gets in that situation. Mm-hmm. But if you haven't ever set a goal inside of the game, like what John's talking about, you have to know your goal. But if you've never, ever, ever done that before and ever thought of it like that,
it could be daunting.
You'll only spend 5 minutes looking back into a game, because the point isn't to get down on yourself. Mm-hmm. It's to take out the moment of which you can learn from and improve upon. And so that is key when you're looking back into the game and taking that time to evaluate it. to start the visualization process. So.
And two, having those goals doesn't necessarily, it's just hit 300 or nothing.
Yeah.
Having well-defined goal is being more than a baseball player, more than a softball player.
Absolutely.
To be that 300 hitter. Yeah. Being that all-star pitcher, a Division I pitcher, like you were saying you wanted to get to, it wasn't about, you got to be a well-defined individual.
Yes.
The disciplines in your life got to be consistent, or thoughts are going to pop up.
Right.
Thoughts will pop up, and that'll derail it. So that
I can tell you that on that note, John, a lot of the girls that I work with in the game, they're doing great. They're awesome. They're right on track for where they want to be. It's all the peripheral stuff that's going on that I spend time shedding that away, looking at the pie, like we've talked about on here. Where is the unbalance? Oh, you're not having enough enjoyment, then we need to add some enjoyment, right? What is fun for you, and take it apart so that when they step back into the field, into the dugout, when they're putting their uniform on and they're doing their visualizations the night before, they're back in that enjoyment flow state. So that when they're in the game, they're clear, they're free, they know what they're there for, and they know their purpose. And we spend a lot of time purpose driven. Why are you playing the game? What is your mission? What is your vision? Right?
Because there's going to be so many things that come up that we're trying to derail you
all day
when
long.
it gets hard. When the game
it's called
hard.
life.
Yeah,
Life
and it's not just in the game. It's not just because you buckled with the ball. It's because I had a fight with my boyfriend, or
why does
with my friend, right?
There's
I had a bad day.
I think baseball and softball and its similarities helps set up very successful in business or whatever. So we learn how to deal with failure.
Yes.
You're learning. This is a failing game.
Yep.
You're learning how to fail. We're the best failures in the world.
We're the best learners.
Think about that. But who says that's the fact that, see, and this is how optimistic I am. Everybody else takes failures as a negative connotation. Why? Because everything that's come out of my life that's been good has been some astronomical failure at the beginning.
Because now you know what not to do.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying.
That's that experience. That's that me. And if I'm not too dumb or selfish or egotistical to not experience that failure and learn from it, I always fall for it.
But that's life.
But that's also why softball and baseball players are good, because we're good at that part.
Yeah.
We're good at getting our butt kicked, and then
getting our butt kicked.
And ultimately, that's what separates the elite athletes from those who don't really progress, because it's learning how to fail forward and grow from that failure and adjust and learn. The ones who can't do that, they will never grow in these games. Because it gets way too hard and then it's not fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. I mean, we can all sit here and share stories about how embarrassed we were on the field, probably, but how you come back the next day and it is what it is.
That's the special part, is be able to learn from it.
Well, and I had this conversation yesterday, and then I know we should probably stop talking at some point, but
we do.
I tell my catchers, I challenge them. I say, the rule is I want 2 pickoff attempts a game. Because you're never going to master that skill if you don't throw the ball. I don't care if you throw the ball into right field. Guess what? Nobody died. Make your adjustment and do it again. Throw the ball again. But they're so great at that.
To make a mistake.
And what you do by doing that too is think about, as a manager or a coach, when you give your girls freedom to be creative with their pickoffs with no outside consequences, you get creativity of making plays, and that's how
just go in there.
Yeah.
Fear of failure, fear making mistakes. That'll be a topic, y'all.
Well, because fear creates more thoughts.
And
if you have fear, what about this? What about this? And then you're searching. Oh, I got a foot down. I got it. All thoughts.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, we have to end this. As amazing as it has been.
Good. Yeah, I'm gonna go meet Brooke for lunch. Perfect time.
John, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much. Bringing us into Behind the Dish family. We are more than ecstatic, on fire, and passionate about what we're doing, about bringing these conversations. On a personal note, I love how you love us strong women out here and are supporting this softball community and strong women in general. So thank you.
And
Thank you.
recognize the need for these conversations within our
Yeah.
female athletes and our
Yeah.
softball community.
So
Well,
Appreciated.
I think baseball and softball are going to go to a new level because I think there's a lot of people feeling the same we are. Look at Major League Baseball hiring. I think it's good to bring up.
Grateful.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think it's just showing that, good ball needs to be played with good ball players.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
And, we talk a lot about, we talk about differences in the game, but the commonality was that mental skill, that mental foundation, that approach.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, ladies, thanks too for you've refueled me, like I said, with Behind the Dish and some of the stuff I've had. So I'm very excited, very proud, and really, really optimistic where our future's going now that I got y'all on the team. So
That's the limit.
Yeah.
look forward to
Thank
it.
you.
Dr. Ashlie, take us home.
You can follow us on behindthedish.us and all the social media platforms, Facebook, Insta, TikTok, LinkedIn, all of them. We're
Right.
there. We appreciate all of you. And please, again, send in those suggestions for any other topics you would love to hear. We've gotten a great list growing and we're putting together some really great upcoming shows. So thank you.
Make it a great
Thank
day.
you.
Have an awesome day.